Well, hi friends, and welcome to another day as we talk about dreams, the dreams that God has put in our hearts. This week we're talking about being forgotten, this idea that we feel sometimes forgotten by God. If we feel forgotten by God, forsaken by God, that our dreams get forgotten and we begin to live a dreamless life. And we said yesterday that because of what Jesus did on the cross, we are not forsaken, we are not forgotten. Jesus himself promised us that he will never leave us nor forsake us. And so we are not forgotten, and therefore our dreams are not forgotten. God's not done yet. Now, at the center of the thing that the enemy tries to convince us, the enemy of our souls, at the center of it is this idea of trying to change our identity, who we believe we are. And the enemy will take lots of shots at it, just a lot of ways. Maybe it's things spoken to us, things we remember from our childhood, from our past, things that we believe to be true about ourselves, but things that change our identity over time. And the world and the enemy works really, really hard at trying to get us to forget who we really are. And once we've forgotten who we really are, our identity, we forget the dreams that God has put in our hearts. That's usually the trajectory of how we forget the dreams that God has put in our hearts. Today, as we read in Daniel chapter 1, we're talking about being in exile. This idea that we're not where we belong. Doesn't the world feel that way sometimes? I just don't belong here. I just don't belong in this system. I just don't belong in a world that looks and feels the way that it is. The anger and the hatred that people can demonstrate toward each other, the things that people can say on social media, the things that people can say about each other in private. I don't belong in a world so broken. We feel like we're in exile. And in Daniel chapter 1, in a very real way, not figuratively, in a very real way, Daniel was in exile. And we notice some things that happened to him. That's important, because when we're in exile, we feel like we're victims. It's happening to us. We have no control. It's just these things are happening to us. And if you notice in Daniel chapter 1, there's three things that happened to him. Number one, they change their names, not their identity. We'll come to that in just a minute. But they change their names. Daniel's name himself is changed to Belteshazzar. We know Daniel's three friends as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Actually, those names were given to them. Hananiah, one of Daniel's friends, his name was changed to Shadrach. Hananiah means beloved of the Lord, the one who's loved by God. In exile, his name was changed to Shadrach, which means illumined by the sun god. Do you see that? And the enemy will try to do that over and over and over again with us. He will try to change our identity. He will try to change our names. He'll try to change the way we live, and he'll try to change the way or what we believe to be true about ourselves and who we know we are in God and in God's eyes. The enemy will work very, very hard at trying to get us to change our identity. Not only were their names changed, but you read that they're in this new training program. Their worlds are changing around them. They're trained into a new political system, a new economic system, a new way of living. Their homes look different. Their culture was different. Daniel was in a brand new foreign place. In fact, he's learning a brand new language. Everything around him is changing. And again, this is just happening to Daniel. That's how we feel in the land of exile. We feel like it's just happening to us. And yet, in and through all this, the attempt of the enemy is to change the identity. And so when we come to the third change, it's square at the identity of who Daniel and his friends are. And it starts in a very small way. That's, again, often how it starts. It's just in small ways. Change his name, change the training, the world around him. But now they ask him to change his food. They ask him to change what he's eating. And that's where Daniel decides to make a stand. In fact, Daniel uses a very curious word. He says, I will not defile myself. he saw something about participating in that as impure. He saw that being a part of that thing in the land of exile would change the identity at the core of who he is. And so he takes a bold stand, a stand that could have had real consequences. And he goes to the person leading the whole training program and he says, you know what? That I don't want to change. He says, I will not eat that. It will defile me. Let us eat the vegetables and the greens, and let us just eat what we know we are supposed to eat, and let us not eat all these other things that will defile us. Now, it's not about the food. That's not what we're hitting at. What the point here is that the enemy tries to change our identity, and he tries to do it in big and small ways. Now, the person who's in charge says, look, what if you're not as fit as the other people? And Daniel says, don't worry about that. God is with us. And we read through the story, we see that God is with them, and we see that Daniel and his friends kind of stand out and they shine through in the entire program. But again, the enemy is trying to change our identity. And if he can get us to forget our identity in exile, he can get us to forget our God dreams. He can get us to chase after the same things the world chases after. Prominence. The things that make us tired. We say we care about us improving and becoming better and becoming prominent. And as we continue to do that, it changes our identity. Changes who we become. It changes what we chase after. And we start down this road, and before we know it, we're just in a rat race like everyone else. The enemy's goal is to change our identity. Again, it starts in small ways. It may start with just you focusing on your job a little too much. It may start with you just feeling like you're working as a slave in exile. It may start with a TV show. It may start with a website. It may start with something small. And you know that what this is doing is it is defiling you. You are putting something in place in your heart that doesn't belong, and it's defiling to you. It is changing the identity of who you are. It's time right now to remember who God has called you to be. It's time right now to remember the reason for our dreaming. It's time right now to come back to the source of our dreams. Joseph was taken from being a prince in his father's house, a man of favor, to being thrown in a pit, to becoming a slave, to then going to prison. The trajectory seems a downward trend. We said yesterday, Joseph said, I just feel forgotten. Many of us feel that way. But it's time to remember, even in this land of exile, who we are called to be, and the reason why we dream the God dreams that he has put in our hearts. Every single one of us. I said when we started this journey, it's like we're keys. God can unlock something using these keys. And not that we are important, not that we are prominent, but that God can help us be significant in the days that he has given us. It is my prayer that none of us waste the days that he has given us, that there is a resurrection of dreams in our hearts, even in this land of exile. May we, like Daniel, stand up and say, you can change my name. You can change what you call me. You can even change the world system around me. You can change everything, but you will not, may not change my identity. I will not be defiled. I know who I am. God loves me, and I dream God dreams. I hope you continue to dream God dreams. God bless you.